Hi guys, and welcome back to the Devine Witch. I am your host, the Devine Witch, and today we're going to be talking with how do you open yourself up to connect with Hecate, or opening yourself up to connect with Hecate, and how do you know when you've made that connection. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to deep dive into that, but before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that way you guys don't miss everything that we do here on this channel between our lives, our discussions, and sometimes a little bit of cooking on the weekends. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in with connecting with Hecate. Welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about how to open yourself up to connect with Hecate. And it's one of the most asked questions, I always say that, but it's true. Like, people are looking for confirmation, like, I feel drawn to Hecate. How do I know if she's reciprocating? How do I know, that we're working together in unison? And we're going to go over that because it's multifaceted. And so let's go ahead and let's dive in. So first and foremost, if you're getting the calling to work with Hecate, that's a clear sign that Hecate is opening the path for you to work with her. Because a lot of people, when they get introduced to Hecate, whether it be through shows or people they know or just random YouTube videos, or they see an animal and they look up the association, and so they start wondering, like, what does that mean? And the next thing you know, Hecate's name pops up. It's happened to me, it's happened to other people, and I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video and you're new, it's probably happened to you and you're going, okay, now what? Now, you've got to think that Hecate is a road opener, the lady of the crossroads, so to speak. And when you think of road opening and the crossroads, there's many different paths that are going to be before you. So when she's calling to you, it could be signs, symbols, television, friends, just a simple search. And then before you know it, you're deep diving into who is Hecate, how do you work with Hecate, and you've started that relationship. So you've opened the door already, but you're second guessing yourself to that connection. Now, there's a difference between making a connection and strengthening a connection, which is the one thing that I think most people are having difficulty with when it comes to this. Because if you're already looking in her, you'll know that when we do these videos, occasionally I mess up, and I'm not planning to stop. So, in her, with her, be with her, so mo to be. Either way, we're going to continue with this video. So when you're feeling that connection with her, that's already a door to open to work with her. And the more you deep dive and the more that you get a connection with her, you'll notice a lot of similarities between people that work with Hecate and people that get drawn to her. They all kind of have similarities, whether it be a thirst for knowledge. Some of the similarities is kind of feeling like that outcast vibe, like you don't really fit, but you don't know why you don't fit because you have all these connections and people come and flock to you with ease, but yet you don't feel like you're completely complete. And it's one thing that, it's not only the human condition to feel like that, but I think it's a lot more prominent when you're drawn to a crossroad goddess. And some will say, I remember seeing a woman or hearing a woman's voice, or like I would have dreams about this woman, and they start really thinking about it in terms of like their whole life. Because, when you open yourself up to working with a deity or a spirit, and you feel super drawn to them, like a magnetic connection, like taking two magnets, and the closer you get, you just can't pull them apart because that magnetic force is so strong. And that's kind of how it is. For me, I would have dreams of this woman with dark hair guiding me. I would see things when I was younger that I couldn't quite explain. And, there's a lot of people that, they'll say, well, that could be about anything, really. But when you make a connection and it reigns true for you, and you're taking the time out of your busy life, whatever it may be, no matter if you're dealing with regular life, emotional life, or, you're just looking for answers and trying to find a way, she tends to pop up when we need her the most. and when we need to address things. So, like, when it comes to knowing if you have a connection with Hecate, by being there and feeling the need to know more and to validate whether you have a connection, you already have a connection. Now, like I said, having a connection is great, but it's like anything else in life. Like, you could have a job, but if you don't go to that job and work, then it doesn't really mean anything, right? By putting work into it and substance. But how do you do that to kind of verify or strengthen that connection? There's a few different ways to do that, and we're going to go over them. The first way is one that you'll hear across YouTube, no matter who you're working with, is meditation. Now, for some people, it's easy. For some people, it's not. It depends on if you can quiet your mind down, or, some of us are squirrels. Like, I'm a squirrel. I personally just let my mind wander. And that's how I find peace of mind to receive messages or certain things. There's also, when you're trying to search for a connection and you're trying to figure out answers, mirror magic is another easy way to form a connection. Now, one of the things that I've told people to do in the past that she's directed me to is to make a triangle and have that triangle with mirrors facing inward, and there you are in the middle. And no matter where you look, that's a symbolism not only for the crossroads, but it opens itself up as a portal. Because if you've ever heard, don't put mirrors side by side, well, technically you're not putting mirrors side by side. What you're doing is you're creating a force field with those mirrors to open a portal in that moment to create this space where she can communicate with you and she can come through. And you can look at all of the different mirrors and stare into them, which would be considered scrying. So whenever you're scrying, people get lost. They're like, well, how do I do it? Do I need a black mirror? Can I do it with a regular mirror? Here's the thing. When it comes to scrying, you can do it with a black mirror, you can do it with a regular mirror. Now, what I personally do when I'm scrying is I clear my mind as best as I can. And I just stare at the mirror that I'm working with. Now, if you want to do it in a past, present, or future context, you can dedicate each mirror to that if you're a little bit more advanced, and I'll do that later. But for a beginning stage, you can look at each mirror, spend a certain amount of time of dedication. So let's say you spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you're staring at that mirror in itself. And you're vibrating, you're looking for answers. Now, I prefer to do this in a dark room, not because of the ambiance or because it makes it a little bit creepy and you start thinking weird stuff, but it opens you up a lot more, and it kind of hinders your sight of everything. Like, when I say dark, I mean pitch black dark. Like, you can see the little bit of the reflection of the mirror, but not by much. So that way it acts almost like a black scrying mirror, but you're not putting in the time to dedicate that mirror to that. Now, I will say, if you do plan to use mirrors for meditation purposes, make sure to cover them up, because those are now considered portals or gateways. And the last thing you want to do is keep a gateway open and things come in and out, and it can affect you as well. So if you're doing this method, make sure to protect yourself while casting a circle of protection, asking for your ancestors to help you, your guides, or your higher power at the time, or even asking Hecate and putting an offering on an offering plate in your circle and saying, I don't feel like we're super connected yet, but I want to build this bond. Will you please protect me while I'm trying to communicate with you? And that's a simple way to do it. Another way to do it is you can do pendulum. This way you can ask certain questions, and do it that way. You can do it with cards if you feel comfortable with cards. If you're not comfortable with that, you can use boards, such as the Ouija board as well. You can also use devices with electronical as well. These are just like hands-on things that you can do if you feel comfortable. But if you're not at that stage, don't worry about it. I have a lot more options for you. Another thing that you could do as well is you can get a reading. And you can ask somebody, hey, will you look into this for me? Because some people want a confirmation from somebody else. And the thing that I got to say about that is be careful who you go to. And, if you don't feel like it's me and you feel like it's somebody else, you know what I mean? Make sure that you feel comfortable in that connection and that you feel like they're being genuine. Follow your stomach, follow your heart, and let it guide you. Because a lot of people, I've noticed, will ask readings about certain gods and deities, and then they have trouble because they get told, well, you're doing this wrong and you're making them angry. And then I'll have them come to me to give her a reading. I'm like, she's not angry, she's disappointed, but she wants you to learn a lesson. Because with Hecate, it's all about learning lessons, about growing and evolving. And I will say this, if you're not ready to face certain fears, if you're not ready to face certain things about yourself that you know are not good attributes, Hecate is not going to be the one for you, because she is going to test your limits and push you to see things maybe in a different light than you normally do. And it's not a bad thing. It's almost like a parenting kind of guide. That's how I like to see Hecate, because she's an ultimate teacher in my perspective. So I just put that out there just so if you're wanting to build a connection, make sure you know you're wanting to do it because you feel drawn, not because your friends are doing it or you know people or you see on TikTok a lot of people working with Hecate or YouTube. Make sure that you are coming here because you feel the connection. Because if you don't feel the connection, you're doing a distrust to yourself and to her as well. Like, she'll help you, but you're not going to get a maximum effect of someone like me who's dedicated their life to Hecate. So I'm just putting that out there. That's my own personal opinion. Some people may differ from that. They may believe other things. Now, when it comes to ritual based, if you want to do a full-on dedication ritual to her, she does have certain days that some people would consider, like August 13th, I believe it is, or the 15th, somewhere around there, is one of her feast days. So, if you want to broaden that connection, that would be a really good day for you to extend the olive branch, so to speak. And in that time before then, research. Before you go to bed, open yourself up to her to come to you in your dreams. Because, when we think of pathways, it's not only the physical and the spiritual, but it's also, the mental as well. And that's kind of how spirituality, I take it as, is for me. It's the mental, the physical, the spiritual, all combining as one and receiving messages. Another thing that you can do, this would be a meditation practice or just a practice to heighten your senses as well. You can take it however you want. Get you a blindfold of some kind. If you don't have a blindfold, get you a scarf, whatever, and sit in a dark room, especially if it's see-through and you can see a little bit of light coming through, and block off your eyesight. Now, by blocking off your eyesight, you're forcing your body basically to heighten everything else. So that means your hearing is going to get better. That means your feeling is going to get better. That means, your third eye could be forced open to see visions. And, your mind's going to race at the time. You're going to hear little creaks, either from the house you live in or whatever. You're going to notice your breathing. You're going to notice things about your body you may not have noticed before. But it is a real good technique because you're closing off a sense. And when you're doing the triangle thing that I was telling you about, you could also put headphones on. So that way you're not hearing anything as far as like coming inward, but you're opening your vision a lot more. So, you can do things like this as well. Now, if I was going to say, if I wanted to strengthen my bond with her, then, I would set up like a retreat that I could do with her, with myself, or with Coven, or with friends, or a loved one who knows my path and, is there to support me. And go out to nature. Sometimes you can find different crossroads. You can find different trails where you can camp off of. And you can make it symbolic to where you're away from the distractions. Because realistically, these are horrible. They're great. You can look at things like that, right? But if you think about it distraction-wise, someone calls, someone texts, or you're like, oh, I want to check this. Because if you've ever been away from your phone and you can't use cell phone service, you can't connect to the web, and you're like, oh, I'll just look it up, and then you grab your phone and you're like, crap, I can't do it. Because you got to get that disconnect. And that's why I'm telling you, do like a 3-day retreat. Get that disconnect from that temptation. Because the first day is going to be like, oh, I can do this, you know what I mean? But then you can't. Then you have to get back to the basics, which goes back into your genetic makeup. And then by the second day, you should be able to connect to the energies. You start seeing things in a different way. And, you know, you can look at the messages. Like if something stands out to you while you're out there for them 3 days, I always suggest taking a notebook. Like I'm the queen of saying, write the shit down, because you're not going to remember, even though you think you are. You're not, unless you're awesomely gifted, and kudos to you. I'm not one of those people. Take you like a little notepad. Write it down. Be like Dora the Explorer Spiritual Edition. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds funny, but it's true. So, like, let's say you're walking on a trail while you're doing this 3-day excursion, right? And the next thing that you see is a red cardinal. You would write that down. Like, that's the one thing out of everything around you that's caught your attention is that red cardinal. Or let's say you walk 2 more miles up the road on that path, and then the next thing you know, you see this tree branch, and then when you look at it, the way that it forks, sit there for a moment, ponder that, like, why is that out of all this, and write it down. And then once you get done and get all your messages, by the time you leave there, you can go back and you can look at them and you can think about the experience that you felt, and then you can go look up the symbolism behind it. Or ask yourself, what does this symbolize to me? What does this mean? You know, because we all have things, you know, with family or traditions or superstitions. So, you know, that's something that you can take into consideration when you're trying to build that connection as well. Now, as far as like, you know, strengthening the connection, it happens over time, realistically. Like, once you find that bond and you know that she's accepted you, you know, it takes time to really get that deep connection where you can sit here like I am, having a conversation about her and knowing that it's full of love and compassion, but strength and persistence and resilient. You know what I mean? Now, if you're looking for signs for Hecate, you know, it's different for other people. One of the most signs, you know, seeing a torch. Hecate does have her own owl as well. Not many people think about that, but that's a thing. I know a lot of people that connect frogs with Hecate, connect snakes with Hecate, you know, as far as animals and things like that. Or it could be a certain crystal that you're drawn to, and then you find out that it's a crystal associated with Hecate. So while you're, let's say you decided to do the August as her feast, as the first dedication ritual, really connecting with her that you want to do. Here we are in February. Look at the signs and the symbols. Look at their meanings. Learn about her. Like, there are so many books that go into the history of her and how she is. Like, and you can look at the different opinions that different witches have when it comes to Hecate. Like, it's so diverse, but yet you'll hear similar things that are consistent through them all. And you can get hands-on experience from different practitioners of like how she's came to them, or things that she's shown them, or how they vibrated with her. You can even do this in your own community. You don't have to base it just online if you do have a pagan community around you. So that way you're getting multiple sources and you're finding that one thing or two things that you know for certain, hey, this is this, right? And then when you go to do that dedication, that real big dedication to her, that whole day, you're prepping your body, you're prepping your space, and you got it all down to the T, and you're doing this ritual with her, and you feel that connection. Whenever I feel the connection with Hecate, it's almost like an outer body experience. It's like being out of my body, but in my body at the same time. And like, I notice when she's around, when I hear this, like, it almost sounds like being in an auditorium. And then like my voice will manipulate here and there, and it's almost like as I'm speaking words, it's like she's with me and in me and around me at the same time. And sometimes, you know, it could be a cold spot. Like right now, I feel cold right here. And it almost feels like, you know, that embrace that you give to a friend when you're behind them, you know what I mean? And it's one of those things, no matter how many people experience it and express it or articulate it so well, that when you get that experience, that is going to be your ultimate confirmation. No matter who you talk to, you are going to feel it. Like, I know there's been times where I've been on videos where people were like, oh my God, I got a cold chill, or oh my God, that opened up so much for me, or I just had a chill go down my spine, or I've got a tingling on my heart or over my head, or like I heard a whisper when I seen that. Those are also confirmations, because I'm sharing my love and my experience and my dedication to her. And like I'm about to cry. And like, I'm sorry, I'm emotional. You will know when she comes to you. And I promise you, the more you work with her, you can search for mentors. Like me personally, I do mentoring classes like $100 a month. We talk twice a month, but we work on all areas of your life and stuff like that. But that's total different, you know what I mean? But you'll know. And if you want to grow with her, you're going to have to open yourself up, and you're going to have to, be willing to sometimes be broken just to be fixed back. But I promise you, once you are, you're never going to be the same, and you're going to be able to help a lot more people around you in your life. So hopefully that helps answer your question. And thank you guys so much for watching these videos, loving the channel. I appreciate it. And if you guys ever do need me, like I always say, down below is my email. And always remember, no two witches, which the same.